Given that the AENEID itself is a pale imitation riding on the coattails of a much better work, it's perhaps natural that In Search of a Homeland follows that tradition. After their success with Rosemary Sutcliffe and Alan Lee's retelling of the Iliad and the Odyssey, which I reviewed in the last video, the publisher followed up in 2001 with this illustrated retelling of the AENEID. The biggest and most apparent drop in quality is the illustrations. To put it mildly, it's not a style I admire. It's done in a very rough, sketchy style, as if it were just a rough color study rather than the final image. There are some rare examples of more finely rendered pieces, but they're so few and really just make the rest stand out even more as low effort, particularly how so many look like they were colored in by a child. The only good thing I can say about the illustrations is that the quantity is even better than the earlier books. Every single spread features illustration, but while that's awesome, it's kind of pointless given how unappealing the art is. In my opinion, the book is not worth getting for the art, which is a shame because that's the whole point of an illustrated edition. The writing, however, fares better. In terms of a faithful abridgment, of course there's stuff missing, but given the nature of the project, it's as good as you could hope for. However, the author is not quite as good a storyteller as Rosemary Sutcliffe. On the one hand, it's great the broad strokes have kept the same classical style, so it's not a jarring shift in voice when coming to this after the Iliad and the Odyssey. However, in the finer points of her prose, it does lean towards a slightly more stilted and simplistic writing down to children style, which is particularly awkward when combined with a vocabulary and language that's often the opposite of that. The dialogue particularly sounds like a bad play, though to be fair I suspect that is deliberate in order to evoke the original and that classical style. Still, I don't think it's been done well enough here, so it's not quite as masterfully told, universal, or comfortable for any readership like the Iliad and Odyssey were. Nevertheless, it's still very good. In fact, of the four AENEID children's retellings I'm familiar with, this is definitely the best. But, as I just touched on, if you are buying this for a younger reader, the vocabulary and style may be a little bit challenging at times. Considering that the publisher positioned this as a follow-up to the Iliad and Odyssey for younger or first-time readers of the story, one thing it feels like it's missing is a translation of the gods' Roman names versus the Greeks.